Well, if you watched Daredevil last night, you got to see the return of Frank Castle, and I have to say, it was primo. The dynamic between Jon Bernthal and Charlie Cox's character is amazing, and we almost didn't get it. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about what Jon Bernthal recently had to say about returning to the character and why he originally turned down Marvel Studios to come back to the universe. Hopefully, this was the first sign that sent them back to the drawing board. Well, last night, Jon Bernthal made his long-awaited return as Frank Castle in the most recent episode of Daredevil Born Again. But it sounds like he wasn't going to be part of the series at all, at least as part of the original version of the show. Now, as many of you know, Daredevil Born Again went through a complete reboot after it was about halfway done with production. The writer's strike happened, and Marvel Studios just went back to the drawing board, sending most of the creative team packing, bringing in some new crew, and embracing its former Netflix roots, which, based on the results, seemed to be a very, very smart move on their part. Now, we've seen a lot of characters from the old universe return, and one of them was Jon Bernthal's Punisher. Now, we knew Frank was coming back based on some of the set pictures and trailers, but last night he made his first appearance and returned with a fury. Now, recently, the actor himself did an interview with Entertainment Weekly, and Jon Bernthal dove in a little bit into reprising the role after appearing in 2 seasons of his own spin-off over on Netflix. And what he had to say, I think, actually might have steered Marvel Studios. Now, in that interview, he said, quote, "It was like, let's see if this works. Let's see if there's a real openness and a hunger to let Frank be what Frank is, which is dark enough to have the courage and the boldness to turn your back on the audience and make it difficult, to make it enormously psychologically complex, and to steer away from any cuteness or humor and to go really full bore." Ultimately, I didn't see it. I didn't see the version of Frank, and what they wanted from Frank didn't make sense to me, and I thought it would not appeal to the fans and wouldn't be congruent. It was not something I was really interested in doing, so we had to walk away. Sometimes you just have to be very, very clear with your intentions in this business. You can't get confused with how much you love something, how much you love playing something, how much you want to do something. You've got to make sure you're serving it. You've got to make sure you're doing justice to the people that believe in it and doing justice to the iterations that have come before you. Now, everything Bernthal had to say here absolutely makes sense and shows the huge amount of passion the actor has for the character. Now, apparently, after he walked away, then Marvel brought in Dario Scardapane as the showrunner, and at that point Bernthal definitely changed direction, saying, quote, "They really brought me into the conversation. We really got specific about where Frank is psychologically, where Frank's at physically." Now, if you saw last night's episode, we got a pretty good idea where Frank's at psychologically, and he is right on the edge. The conversation between him and Matt could be held up against the graveyard conversation with the Punisher in Season 2 of Daredevil, and definitely stirred up emotions in my heart. Now, from what we're hearing, we're going to get a lot of Frank this season, and when he talks about this conversation with Marvel and Scardapane, it sounds like to me this is exactly what drove them into the special presentation, and if this is what was required to bring Frank Castle back in a new season of Daredevil, I'm really looking forward to what drove Jon Bernthal to want to do this special, especially since he is helping contribute to the script and create the project, meaning they're definitely going to push the limits of Disney Plus, and the Punisher is going to remain unhinged and definitely not like the other heroes of the Marvel Universe. Now, I was pleasantly surprised with last night's episode, and I can't wait to see what he brings into this character. As a fan of the Punisher, he has to be vicious, brutal, but also sad. And when he talked about his son last night, that encompassed the pain that the character has to feel to make him relatable. A murderous vigilante really isn't that special. You have to feel Frank's pain. And Bernthal, from his speech to Charlie Cox to his classic Punisher battle growl, the pain in the character is written all over his face, and that is what makes his version of the character work. Now, we're obviously following this pretty closely. I suspect we're going to see Frank return in the coming weeks to Daredevil Born Again. It seems like he's part of the finale, and when this smoke clears, I think a lot of people are going to have to think about what they think of the dynamic between these two characters, because they truly are two sides of the same coin. I can't wait. Now, before you take off though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. We do daily videos and we want to be your place for all the Marvel and DC news, but we're going to bring it to you truthfully and transparently so you're really in the know.